Coming up on August 7th, 8th, and 9th, the Mariners will have their 50 seasons celebration. Friday will be an alumni home run derby, and on Saturday, the 8th, the Mariners will have a historic pregame ceremony to reveal and honor the top 50 greatest Mariners players chosen by fans, media, and staff. And then on Sunday, there will be a Legends Photo Day. So just a huge weekend in August. One of those legends and one of the greatest Mariners of all time joined us now on the show. Harold Reynolds is a three-time Gold Glover and two-time All-Star. Harold, first of all, thank you for coming on and joining us on the show here.
Hey, guys, my pleasure. Always great to be back in Seattle and get a chance to come on and talk Mariner baseball. So thank you for having me.
Hey, Harold, that's great. How excited are you to come back and be part of this 50-season celebration?
I'm pumped, man. To be honored, to do it, to be part of the selection group, really cool. But to go back and see guys that I really kind of founded the foundation with the Mariner organization. I signed in 1981. I was in the 80 draft, so I'm right there with the beginning. It was 77 when the Mariners became a team. Plus, growing up in the Northwest, growing up in Oregon, this was my home team. So I'm excited to get back for all of that, to see Mariner history, and I don't know who all the other guys are, so I'm curious to seeing who was selected and who fans are bringing back and who I think should have been there and so who I think's there that shouldn't be. No, I'm just kidding.
Harold, it's kind of cool seeing some of those photos of you as a young Seattle Mariner. Saw a couple there with you and Ken Griffey Jr. holding the Golden Glove Awards. You have mentioned before that Ken Griffey Jr. was the best baseball player at the age of 20 that you've ever seen. You watched him up close. Yeah. What made Jr. so special?
Obviously, the swing is the first thing you talk about. He just had an incredible swing, but I think the one thing people don't talk about was his work ethic. I mean, the talent was there, no doubt, but he worked his tail off. I remember every day he'd be at the park early hitting, be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, so he'd get all his work in before most people got there. And so he had this perception early on that it was just the natural, they call him the kid, the natural. And a lot of it was true. He's naturally gifted, but he was there working early all the time. And it was funny, 'cause we'd be out there stretching, like 4 o'clock would be time to stretch, get ready for batting practice. And he'd already hit, sweat, ran, did all that stuff. And so he'd be wandering around, everybody like, Junior, join the stretching. Let's go. And he'd keep wandering around, and he'd go, does a cheetah stretch before he chases his prey? Every day, that was his line. And I could tell you more funny stories, but that was kind of it. But no, he was so fun to play with. But he was crazy, gifted, talented. Could throw, could run, could hit. Last thing on the throwing, and I'll throw it back to you guys for more to talk about. But we're in New York playing the Yankees. And Edwin Nunez, we had a pitcher named Edwin Nunez and Jr. And the flight the whole way there, Griffey's telling him, I throw harder than you. And Nunez threw like mid-90s, and Jr. kept saying, I can throw harder than you. And they got in this huge competitive argument. So we get to Yankee Stadium, and now they're going to see who can throw a ball the furthest. And they decided they would try to throw it out of center field in Yankee Stadium. And I remember them chucking balls and throwing the ball out of the stadium in dead center in Yankee Stadium, over the black seats, out towards the train tracks. I'm like, you guys are nuts, man.
Yeah.
But crazy arm. That was my point.
Harold, I bet you have a million stories about some of these incredible guys you played with. You played with some of the best. One of those players that you played with that is one of the best is Randy Johnson. Now, you were playing when he got his first no-hitter, but you also watched him struggle early on. So tell us a story about how Nolan Ryan helped Randy Johnson.
Well, I'm sure Randy will correct me, because every time I tell it, he goes, that's not exactly how it is. But I like my version of the story better. He was wild, obviously, didn't exactly know where the ball was going. We traded Mark Langston for Randy Johnson in a trade that brought us Brian Holman, who almost threw a perfect game. He gave up a home run to Ken Phelps in the 8th inning. He's famous for that. A guy named Gene Harris, who he looked a lot like me, and he'd go out to the clubs and say, "I'm Harold Reynolds." He'd get in free, and everybody come up to me talking about, "Hey, you're dating my daughter." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Gene, you know I'm talking about Gene. And then there was Randy, and Randy was just, couldn't find the play. And his biggest problem was he was afraid he was going to hurt people. He threw the ball so hard. And this is my version of the story. We go to Texas, and he gets a chance to sit down with Nolan Ryan. And Nolan takes him to lunch. They get a chance to talk. And Nolan basically tells him, you get 3-0 on a guy, throw the ball at him, and you'll see how they get out of the way. It is their job to get out of the way. And that kind of got Randy over the fear of maybe hitting guys. And then before you know it, he strikes out 17 in Texas or somewhere in that number. And it was all over. After that, he was the big unit. Yeah. And he was dominant.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. Learning from one of the best for sure. All right, Harold, we know you had one of the best gloves in baseball, but you also had speed. 1987, you led the American League in stolen bases with 60 steals. Can you tell us the story about Rickey Henderson reacting to this?
Well, it's been told a lot, but I'll tell you again. I guess to know the depth of the story, you have to know Rickey, because Rickey always talked in the third person. Like, you might be playing cards and he'd say, Rickey got a sweet hand. Rickey got to smoke somebody, And Rickey would lead off second base, and he'd turn to me and he'd go, Rickey getting ready to go, Reynolds. Rickey getting ready to go. And you can't stop him. And he'd sit there and tell you. He'd be at first base, he'd point at me like, I'm coming, It was unbelievable. So he was still, at that time, around 100 bases every year. He was averaging 100 bases. The thing about 1987, it was the only time in that decade that he did not win the stolen base title. So it was the one time. And 1987, Rickey got injured about May. I think he had around 30 stolen bases already. And I ended up having 30 at All-Star break in July. And so I finished with 60, and Willie Wilson had 59. So we had 59 together on the last day of the season. I steal a bag. Willie doesn't steal a base. So I get back home. The Mariners, we're not in the playoffs. I go back home. Phone rings. I answer the phone. There's no caller ID or nothing like that. I pick up the phone. Hello? He says, Henderson here. I said, hey. Oh, man, Rickey's calling to congratulate me. What up, Rick? 60 stolen bases? You ought to be ashamed. Rickey had 60 at the All-Star break. Click, and hung up the phone. And that was my congrats from Rickey Henderson. And we talk about that till forever, man. He would always tell me, stolen base champ, 60 stolen bases. He was embarrassed for me.
I love it. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Classic Rickey story, man. Listen, we could talk about these old school stories all day long, but I got one more question about the past.
Okay.
Before we start talking about this year's Mariner team. Now, you were fast, but apparently you were not fast enough for Bo Jackson. Didn't Bo Jackson throw?
Oh, he did. I was there.
I don't know.
I was there,
I want to hear the story.
He gunned him down.
I'm just a young buck. I don't know. I want you to tell me.
All right. So I'm on first base. I think it's the 10th or 11th inning. Scott Bradley's up. So I'm stealing on the play. The ball's hitting to the left field corner. So it's in front of me. I can see that the ball hits up and bounces up off the wall. There's no way I'm getting thrown out. And I am full tilt. By now, I've turned second. I'm rounding, getting ready to start the round third. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm going to have to relay throw to get me, and it won't even be close. This game is over. So I get to about halfway down third baseline, heading towards home, and the next batter, Darnell Coles, has run up to be my guy to tell me stand up or slide. He's telling me to slide. And I'm kind of confused as I'm sliding. So I just give a little courtesy slide, and I get tagged out. And you see the highlight. I throw my helmet, and then I'm yelling at the ump, and it's more out of confusion than anything else. And all of a sudden I go, who, no way, they relayed and threw me out. Who threw that ball? And they go, no, Bo threw it all the way in the air. And as it was described to me, he caught the ball on the hop off the fence next to the wall and just spun and threw. No stride, anything, threw it all the way in the air.
Wow.
And got me out. And so for years, Bo and I have talked about this throw, and I tell him, Bo, I made you famous, man. Nobody knew about you in baseball. and so I had him on our Hot Stove show at MLB Network about a year ago, and we've had him on different times, and Bo and I have talked through the years, but he goes, I'm going to reveal something to you you've never known. I go, what's that? And he goes, you see me, it looks like I'm tucking my shirt in after the throw. I broke my jock. I turned and threw it so hard.
Wow.
He goes, I'm trying to fix my jock. I'm not tucking in my shirt.
It did look like he was tucking it in. You're right.
Yeah, so if you see that highlight, you'll look at it a little different now.
To be fair, that was one of the greatest plays by one of the greatest athletes to ever walk the face of the earth. So
no doubt.
No shame.
No
shame.
doubt.
No doubt about it.
I tell this story, too, to kind of put it in context of how great Bo was. He hit a ball. I played 10 years in the Kingdom, and they had like 4 or 5 tiers, right? And the upper tier, I saw maybe 5 balls hit up there in 10 years. Bo flips around in batting practice, who's talking trash to me, like, Reynolds, switch hitter. Switch hitter. And he takes one swing left-handed and hit it in the 5th deck. That was one of the 5 balls I've ever saw hit up there in 10 years.
Wow.
And that was Bo Jackson. Incredible, man.
Yep.
Absolutely incredible.
Incredible stories. And Harold, when we think of you, we think of those great memories with you wearing a Mariners uniform, but you've also won a lot of Emmy Awards for your role as a baseball analyst. With that in mind, it has been a roller coaster ride for this Mariners team. Expectations were high. They are only a half game out. What's your overall thoughts on what you've seen from this team so far this season?
Well, they've been hard to figure out,
Yeah.
but it's been a couple of years. When Cal didn't start the season playing the way he did and not healthy, it really hindered the offense. And then Julio got off to his normal slow start. He's starting to pick it up now, as you see in the second half. I heard you guys discussion earlier about the pitchers and not wanting to trade anybody, but I think you got to have some offense. And if Andrew Miller's out there and that's in a trade, I'm sorry, you got to get that done too. So that's just my take. I still think the Mariners have a chance to win it all. I thought this club was put together. I was a little surprised with the J.P. Crawford move. I know they wanted to get Emerson to the big leagues, and I've been watching that with a close eye, and he's really improving at short daily. But I thought J.P. Really navigated the game a little bit better, and now young Emerson's starting to get it done. So we'll watch how Cole continues to develop. But those are the 2 things I've seen with the Mariners. The offense has been, for some reason, the last 3 or 4 years just has not got it done. It seems like every trade deadline, last year it was go get Gino back or whatever. We're always looking for another bat. And really, I think they're in the same boat. Pitching's been great. You guys are dead on. Pitching's the reason they're here. But you're going to have to hit. And they got to score some runs. And we can't never have another game in the playoffs where they go 15 innings and don't score or something crazy. So you got to get some offense. And I think that's the key to them being able to make a long run.
Hey, let's talk about Cal Raleigh for a minute. He's sitting around 160 right now. He's a guy who never gets booed at home despite his struggles this season. But I have to ask you, as a good hitter yourself back in the day, Harold, it's noted that Cal swings with a torpedo bat on the left side and a regular bat on the right side. Can you give us a little insight? Could that be part of the adjustment problem for him at the plate? Could that cause any problem at all?
Well, I think he did the same thing last year for 60 homers, so I don't know if that's the problem. Being a switch hitter myself, I always looked at it like you're 2 different hitters. I'm a left-handed hitter and a right-handed hitter, and it's like 2 different mindsets, 2 different ways you're going to hit. So maybe he feels like the bats, I never use the same bat on both sides of the plate either, so that doesn't bother me quite as much. But I think the biggest thing for Cal, he just never got his footing out of spring training. Like he went to spring for just a few days, and then he went to WBC, and he became a backup. Will Smith played most of the games, and everybody else played the games at the WBC, and he just didn't get the at-bats that he needed. And that kind of led into the beginning of the season. And it is hard in the Major League season to catch up when everybody's like Then now they're throwing their slider, and now they've got their splits down. If you start the same time everybody else is, they're struggling while you're struggling. And he never got a chance to really catch up. And I feel like that's what he's been trying to do. It looked like when he went down to the minor leagues, he hit 5 homers, I think, in a couple games and whatnot, that he really had found his stroke. And I said the same thing to Mookie Betts. I saw Mookie the other day. He's hitting 230, and he's like, man, I'm hitting 230. And I'm like, yeah, Mookie, but you know what? That's behind you. You still got 300 more at-bats, if you look at it that way. Go out, do the best you can with those 300 at-bats. You can turn your season around. But if you go out and win a World Series, you think anybody's talking about you hitting 230? No, not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I say the same thing I would say to Cal when I see him in August, and hopefully before then he's already turned it around. It's like, the beginning of the season's over. If you take the Mariners and win a World Series, nobody's talking about your struggles in the beginning of the year. So I think that's a thing guys can do, and hopefully they can focus on and turn it around.
Yeah, 100% on that one.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, and you talked earlier also about Julio Rodriguez, how he usually gets off to a slow start and then starts heating up. But he, again, is another leader on this team that right now needs to step things up. So what would you like to see from Julio?
I'd like to see Julio do what he does in the second half. You know, I don't know why he struggles in the beginning of the year. Maybe it's coming from the Dominican, and then you're stuck in cold weather in Seattle at the beginning of the year. But whatever it is, he's got to go out and just be healthy. You know, I think the big thing for him is he's struggled with some little nagging injuries early in the year, and those hurt you. So hopefully Julio can turn around. He's so fun to watch. He's so charismatic, and he's just a great player. So hopefully he can get to that level of being himself and start to turn this thing around for him. But look, we're talking about a team struggling, sitting in first place. So that's a beautiful thing right now.